let this guy turn a couple grand into an $8 million a year security empire.
In the first month, I sold 80,000 and I didn't even have a product yet. It fundamentally showed me that it's kind of like a disease. And if you can take away that disease, you can actually do or become anything.
Uncover the same strategies billionaires like Jeff Bezos use for explosive growth.
In the first year, I sold 300,000. Second year, 900,000. And in the third year, we were at 3 million.
Discover the traditional marketing strategy that trumps any digital counterpart.
We're spending 7 figures on marketing and nothing comes close to this.
And at last, the costly mistake that could end your business before you start. All right, James, before we get into your incredible story, tell our audience where we are and a little bit about the business itself.
We're in our world headquarters. It's right here in Las Vegas. We've got a showroom where people can come and see for themselves how tough this really is.
And what does the company do for...
Well, the real answer is we sell peace of mind. And the way we do that is through a product that keeps all the bad stuff out. So you can get those bars, but they're ugly. Or you can get those rolling shutters, but no one can live that way.
Yeah.
Or you can go third generation, which are what we call security screens. And this is the best way to do it. In fact, we guarantee it. For the last 6 years, I've installed over 15,000 of these, 0 break-ins. The bad guys are dumb, but they're not stupid.
This type of security doesn't come cheap. Tell us about the cost for an average home.
Yeah. So when it comes to security doors, they'll start at 2,000. Security screens for windows will start at 1,000.
Per window.
Per window. And something like this, a slider, will start over maybe 3,000 and up. Everything depends on the width and the height of that opening. In most cases, average deal size is about $10,000 to secure a home.
What tools do you guys think we need to use to break through these screens? Because we're about to give that a shot ourselves. Let us know what you think in the comments below. So this is where people come in.
Yeah.
And then you basically give them whatever tools you have, then say, have at it.
Yeah, and I warn them not to hurt themselves, but I also tell them really go at it so you can really see for yourself. So by now the neighbors are like, hey, what's going on? If you're home, you're like, hey, what's going on, right?
You'd be a fool to continue doing that for 30 minutes thinking you're going to get some treasure inside the house. Give us an insight. What were your startup costs and why were they so low and kind of what did you do? What was the technique?
Well, the first challenge is just to find a client. So the top of funnel is really online advertising, and that was the sole expense that I had. So for this industry, we require a 50% deposit to get started. If you're selling 80 grand, that means you have 40 grand, right? And it takes maybe 6 to 8 weeks to manufacture. The manufacturer, that's another 30 days there on that invoice, 30 days net. So what you end up getting is about 3 months or so that you can sit on the 40 grand. And so if you're doing 80 grand the first month, 80 grand the second month, 80 grand the third month, you've got 40 on the first month, 40 on the second month, and 40 on the third month.
Right.
You now have 120K in the bank.
Do you come from money or entrepreneurial background? Give us a quick insight into
so the long story is my he became missing in action in Vietnam when I was 1. So he's a pilot in the Air Force, became missing in action. They never found his body or the plane. And so at that time, my mom was a German national. And because of my father's situation, she moved us all to a farm. Because she's trying to discover this for herself, right? She's in a foreign country. She now no longer has a husband. She doesn't know what's going to happen. She's got 4 kids. And so the first lesson is, hey, independence, right? You got to learn how to take care of yourself. The other is resilience. Because of this situation, we have setbacks through our lives all the time. So the independence and the resilience is really, I think, what came out of this. And because of my father's situation, the government gave us what's called the GI Bill. I wouldn't have been able to go to school if it were not for the GI Bill. I ended up getting my engineering degree, which I loved, right? And that started, the path. It's funny, they say like how you got to where you are is never what you planned to do. But if you step and look back at how things came about, there's a path there, right? Which you would have never have anticipated.
All right, so this is where you store all the goodies, quote unquote.
This is where we do the staging. Crates come in from the factories here. We uncrate. We do final QA. it's success.
Take us through your year-over-year revenues, and what were the biggest growth levers for you?
So that first month was gangbusters, right? That was 80 grand. And that first year, I kind of scaled it back a little bit because I still had to figure everything out.
Yeah.
So I booked maybe 300 grand in sales. The second year tripled in size, so it's just under $1 million. And the third year tripled again in size. So it went from 1 million to 3 million. Mm-hmm. The challenge is, whenever you grow rapidly, is you got to completely nuke your organization. So what worked as working by myself at 300 grand a year is not going to work at 1 million. It's definitely not going to work at 3 million or 9 million or whatever, right? So the takeaway is you got to build that team. The sooner you can structure that support, that organization to wear those other hats, the more you can focus on what you do well.
What are some early hardship, James, that you can think of that have really shaped who you are today? That just ties into what's your advice to those going through hardship, whether it's personal or business?
I like the metaphor of there's a wall between you and what you want, and the wall is meant to keep out all those people who don't want it that badly as you. Mm-hmm. So you have to find a way to adapt and overcome, right? To go over the wall, around the wall, through the wall, or under it. And business is all about hardship. I mean, many times it goes really smoothly and goes well, and many times it doesn't. And so what are you gonna do? My favorite quote is Winston Churchill's like, when you're going through hell, keep going. You'll persevere, you'll find a way. And at the end of that day, you'll actually become better, stronger.
That's awesome. Where are we going next? We've seen your showroom, we've seen the warehouse.
We got a bunch of installs going on, so why don't we drop by there and take a look at that?
Let's go check it out.
Yeah.
Blitz time with James. You ready?
Ready.
What's the most overrated security measure out there?
Security cameras and security alarms.
Good point. What's your favorite way to decompress after work?
Chess.
What's your biggest splurge and how much?
I love flying, airplanes.
Yes, planes?
Yeah.
Cool. As a martial artist, what's your favorite martial arts movie?
Return of the Dragon.
Nice. What's the most surprising thing about being an entrepreneur?
It's pretty easy.
If you weren't in security, what would you be doing?
I think I'd be building air parks. So an air park is like a neighborhood, but for people who own their own aircraft, so they put their home and the aircraft there. And I got another answer for you too.
Yeah.
There's this butterfly exhibit, I don't know if it's maybe in Seattle or something, that's Washington, D.C. Thousands of people going through this butterfly tunnel. I thought that'd be really fun business to do.
Real butterflies.
Yeah, real butterflies.
Check that out.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's a wrap. James said it best. He sells peace of mind. But before he could protect thousands of homes, he had to protect the brilliant idea for his business. And that starts with setting it up right from day one. That's where Busy comes in. Busy helps entrepreneurs safeguard their business by handling the essential but overwhelming stuff: LLC formation, compliance tracking, and even tax support. They make it simple so you can focus on what really matters: building and growing your enterprise. Think of it like adding a security screen to your business, keeping out risks like missed deadlines, fines, or compliance headaches. Plus, Busy offers $0 LLC formation and a free registered agent service for your first year, giving you protection, transparency, and peace of mind without breaking the bank. So take the leap of faith, because your business or big idea is worth protecting. Click the link in the description and let Busy give your business the foundation it needs to thrive. So we're at a job site, right?
Yes.
The guys were going to do something, but what happened?
They squared off the frame, and so they need to make some adjustments on the panels. It's a very nice, what we call bifold slider. So it kind of like an accordion, moves all the way over to one side, and then it pivots all the way out of the way.
Yeah.
So it's perfect for people who want to open up that back patio for entertaining.
Okay. Switching gears here, let's talk about the fact that you spend 7 figures a year on marketing.
Yeah.
Pretty large number.
Sure.
Where does it all go? What platform has the highest ROI?
We spend about 80 grand a month. You know, the best way to find clients like this is online. And so if you look at the funnel, the top of the funnel is typically Facebook, and then we guide them through that journey. And eventually AdWords, you know, we couple all that with some conventional advertising like TV and radio and direct mail. But for the most part, the online advertising is very effective. We see stronger return there, and we can, you know, hone in on our avatar, and we can remarket to them. Because you can imagine a lot of people, they want the security, but they have no idea what this is. So at the top of the funnel, we capture their attention and we start to educate them. And once they get to the bottom of that funnel, it's a no-brainer. It's just a question of how to afford it.
Talk to us about some insights, some advice for other entrepreneurs when it comes comes to referral marketing?
You want to energize that referral engine any which way you can. If you look at every install as kind of a showroom, and you encourage those homeowners then to share with their friends and family what this is, and you incentivize it. So, for example, we may give $200 to someone who's an advocate and $200 to someone who's buying. And so in this way, what you end up getting is a very low-cost lead and a very high conversion rate. So your cost of acquisition to get the signature on that contract is considerably lower if it's coming from a referral than if you're reaching out, through Facebook or Google or whatever, and then trying to condition that client into a prospect, into a customer.
How many installs do you do on a typical month? Just give us an average.
About 80. Yeah, 4 a day.
Well, let's go back and check out the warehouse, because the guys left this job site, and continue the conversation there. Back at the warehouse, let's talk about high-ticket sales, right?
Yeah.
You've got single-family homes.
Yep.
That's one sales approach, and then you've got a commercial building. Is there a difference there? Give us a quick demo and understanding on selling to different.
It's the same thing. You want to give them what they want. You got to show them that this is what they've always wanted. They got to know you, they got to like you, and they got to trust you, right? So you show up on time. You dress professionally. You're polite. You're professional. My top closer, she'll close 75% of these jobs. And I ask her, what's your secret sauce? And she'll say, well, I do my homework, and I sit with them and I really try to help them, not sell them. We're not here to sell, we're here to help. It's fundamentally different. And just because someone doesn't move forward right away, doesn't mean they don't want it.
Let's change a little bit and talk about pricing, because it says you're not the cheapest.
No.
What's the strategy there?
To give someone a good solution, it really requires a bunch of different things. You've got to have a premium product, and you have to have a premium install, and you have to have a premium customer service experience along the way. And so in order to deliver that consistently, you have to price it so that there's enough margin there to keep things going. If you get into a price war, if you try to be the least expensive, you have to sacrifice something somewhere. It's either in the product itself, the customer service side, or the installation side, right? So the key is deliver excellence, and you'll find plenty of people who are willing to pay for that.
If I become a Boss licensee, what kind of revenue can I expect? Maybe in the first year? Can't really copy what you had in Las Vegas, but in general, what do you think?
$200 to $300 a month. That's a sweet spot. That's the volume that 2 installers will be able to support easily. 1 admin person, 1 salesperson. $200 to $300 a month. That's a good place to be.
That's not
15
too
to 20%.
Okay.
Net margins. So you're netting 30 to 60 grand a month.
Not bad. How market specific would that be then? I mean, Seattle, millions of people versus Bellingham North is 90,000 people.
It's the $1 million question. You need the market that's going to support that volume. A small town won't do that. You need a medium-sized to larger-sized city. You need issues of crime there, right? Which we all have in the United States. It's not a problem. But you also need to hustle. This is not a product where you open a car wash and people are going to drive by and then they're going to drive in there and get a car wash. It's not that kind of thing.
Yeah, if security screens is becoming more of a business that you guys want to get into, pursue, build, scale in your market, then make sure to check out the link in the description below to see how James can help you out with that. All right, well, let's let these guys finish up what they're doing. Let's go check out the other warehouse that you have.
Yes.
Similar to this, just more.
It's right over here. Let's
more
go take a look.
supplies and stuff?
Yep.
Okay. Everything's custom made, exactly tailored to your window, your size.
Any size, any shape, any color, everything's custom. We can do it all.
What was the biggest job that you closed? What was going through your mind, right? If your average ticket's 10 grand for residential?
It was a government job in Tucson. It's probably about 150. And it was during the George Floyd riots. And at that time, the city and county building, they were concerned that there may be rioting like that in their city.
What's the percentage of your commercial jobs that you take on versus residential?
The bulk of our work right now is residential, so 80 to 90% residential. But we like the commercial work. It's because you're making one thing 100 times rather than 1,000 different things. Moving forward in the future, we'd like to see 80% of our volume be commercial government.
Oh, wow.
And 20% be residential.
What's the reason for the move? Obviously,
it's the size of the project, it's the margins. The residential market is our bread and and butter. It's highly customized. And that's a good thing. That's a great thing if you're a consumer. From a manufacturing perspective, it's a little more challenging.
You have hundreds and hundreds of 5-star reviews. That's good for you as a business. Speaks volume. So how do you ensure customer service, customers are satisfied, etc.?
It's important to take full ownership of everything. The client has to feel comfortable about that. If something isn't right, we're going to make it right. You couple that with communication, and then, you know, at that time, install day, there's a process where we walk through with the client, screen by screen, the client signs off on it, and then finally there's follow-up from the office with the client.
And you have a warranty, which is
15-year parts and labor.
Gotcha.
And we have the no break-in guarantee.
Let's go take a closer look at the box truck, because that's something obviously you would need to have in your arsenal, right?
Your mobile shop.
Yeah, let's go take a look. How much does it take for a typical install then? And on top of that, from the time the lead comes in, you get the deposit, you order the manufacturing to the install. What does that look like as it is today for you?
So some timeline. So when we get an inquiry, we like to fill that inquiry that week. Within 7 days, the person needs something, we need to be there, right? When they're ready to move forward, hopefully it's at that moment, we schedule a final measure. Same thing. Within 7 days, calendar days, get the final measure done.
2 measurements.
Time is money. And these clients, as I mentioned, they wanted it yesterday when there was a problem. So we need to move fast. After the final measure, it goes to the factory. Factory to install is going to be about 10 to 12 weeks.
Okay, so at least a couple months.
Make them as fast as we can, right? But you got to line up and wait. Shipping is typically 1 week. Final QA check is 1 week. So from that final measure to ready to install is about 10 to 12 weeks. And then the install itself depends on the scope of the job. But in general, 2 guys, one who is highly qualified and the other, we call that person a third hand, holding stuff. In general, they should install 10 to 20 grand a day in deal size. So that job that we looked at today was actually $25,000 enclosure. So we'll do that either in 1 day or 2 days.
Interesting. 8 out of 10 people watching this episode with James are not subscribed. If that's you, please take a second to like and subscribe. Not only tells us that you're enjoying this episode, but it also helps us bring more and more incredible entrepreneurs like James.
High five.
If James's success has inspired you to start your own business, but you're not sure where or what business to pursue, the UpFlip quiz will help you identify a business based on your goals, personality, and situation, along with a step-by-step 10-day plan on how to get that business going. Make sure to hit that link in the description below and check it out right now. All right, well, thank you for showing us your HQ, the warehouse. Can we go check out a final finished product, the home where everything's already installed on?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, I'll follow you. What would a job like this then cost, James?
There are a lot of windows and sliders in the back there, so over 20, maybe less than 30.
And as far as like warranty and stuff, I would imagine this is there forever. I mean,
it'll last longer than the home.
The home, yeah.
But we warranty everything 15 years, parts and labor, no BS warranty. No fine print. You got a problem, give us a call, we'll fix it.
No, that's the way to do it. Okay. Any regrets along your journey of entrepreneurship?
I think the sooner you can bring people on board who know better than you how to do whatever it is. It could be a little pocket about manufacturing, for example. Or it could be a little pocket about advertising. It could be anything. If there's someone who can do it better, instead of trying to figure it out, just bring that person in. Find the money, whatever's required, because you'll have much stronger return getting someone qualified in that role than limping along with someone who's trying to do their best but really doesn't.
Having started and run multiple businesses, I'm curious, what are some biggest takeaway lessons from you about just the journey of entrepreneurship in general?
It boils down to 3 things. You got to keep your clients happy. I mean, everyone knows that, right? But you also have to keep your team happy, your employees happy. And then the CPA has to be happy, right?
That's a big
on the accounting side. So it's outside, it's inside, and it's in between. Everything needs to be happy. For most people out there, you know that already. But you need to inspect what you expect. You have to mind the store. You cannot assume that everything's being done the way you engineered it to be done. You must go and see, just like we did today, what's happening. And then the other thing most entrepreneurs are really guilty of is sloppy financials. Every single penny needs to be accounted for. The financials tell you how you're doing. It's like a health check, right? The financials will show you if you're pointed in the right direction or not. And if you don't have the discipline to monitor every single penny, you're going to pay for it in the long run.
What's the best and worst thing about being an entrepreneur?
The best is you're creating something you can stand by it and say, I did that, good or bad. It's something that you made, like a work of art. Art many times comes out really nice and sometimes it doesn't, but you did it, not someone else. And I feel that kind of ownership and maybe pride, that for me is the best part of entrepreneurship.
What's the worst?
If you fail, no one's going to catch you. And so when I worked for Sony, it was really exciting to be able to do whatever I felt we should do. But I always felt like if I made a mistake, someone was going to catch me. They say the rabbit always outruns the fox, right? This is a Russian proverb, because rabbit's running for its life and the fox is just running for dinner, right?
Yeah. Huh.
And so as an entrepreneur, what is super exciting is running like the rabbit for your life, because if you fail, you failed.
How big is the security screen market? Because you don't often hear about this business in general.
Yeah. So on the residential side, in the United States, there are 130 million homes. So I would say if the average deal size is 10K, it'd be 10K times 130 million homes, right? That's the upside potential.
Yeah.
But in addition to residential, we have commercial. So many people will put our screens on the commercial buildings because of the cost of replacing broken glass. And over time, that gets very expensive. So by putting our screens there, which are rated Hurricane Category 4,
wow,
you don't have broken glass anymore. So it's the residential, commercial, and then there's government. On the government side, the area that we work closely with now are schools. Schools, unfortunately, are concerned about shooters. So for them, this is a really neat solution.
So your mom raised 4 kids.
Yeah.
Not knowing English.
Yeah.
I'm curious if there's a business lesson in there that she maybe unknowingly taught you.
Yeah, be the cockroach.
Be the cockroach.
Yeah.
Elaborate, what does that mean?
It's just hard to kill. You can step on a cockroach, you can do whatever you want, and the thing's just like still alive, right?
They'll probably outlive an atomic war.
It's like you cannot destroy me. And so as business owners, we got to be that way, right? We got to be like, things may claw at us, things may trip us up, things may take us down, but we're standing right back up, just like that cockroach. Can't kill us.
I love it. Be a cockroach. Can you share any specific breakthrough moment on the personal side of things?
Yeah.
And really kind of that changed your perspective on what's possible?
I was one of these super shy kids. My mom would encourage me to take the check when we're at a restaurant and go up and pay that bill. I just couldn't do that. I was just too shy. And eventually I found my way into the martial arts. So I started when I was 14. It gave me confidence. It gave me the ability to stand up. It gave me the skills and the energy, to really meet any kind of challenge. And martial arts does that. I'm sure other things do it as well. But it fundamentally showed me that, that shyness thing is kind of like a disease. And if you can take away that disease, you can actually do or become anything.
Wow.
Right? And it's really life-changing for me to go from 14, super shy kid, to 18, I'm ready to go across the country, go to school.
Shoulders back, walking.
Carry yourself completely differently.
That's awesome. If we mapped out a timeline of Boss Security Screens, what would you say would be the biggest turning points that kind of elevated and pushed the business to continue growing?
The first turning point was that people have been wanting it all their lives. They just didn't know it existed. Once they know it, once they discover it, they're like, where have you been all my life? That's what I need. The second turning point was really, how do we do what we do in other places? So we opened up Phoenix, and now we've opened up LA. Being able to do what we do in other places was a huge turning point.
For sure, from a scalability perspective, yeah.
Well, now we've got the demand, and now we're able to sell it, but it comes back to that first point. Well, how are we going to manufacture that, right? With people in those localized areas, because they do have that tribal knowledge, we need to keep pace from a production perspective. I mentioned the good news is we can sell it faster than we can make it, and the bad news is we can sell it faster than we can make it. So by mapping out 5 factories now across the country, we're better able to keep pace with those sales levels.
When it comes to hiring talent, James, can you share with us any insights as to how you identify the qualities that are perfect for your team and kind of what you've learned?
The ones I like most are the scrappy ones.
The scrappy ones?
Yeah, the ones that roll up their sleeves and they're ready to go at it, right?
Get in the trenches, get dirty.
That's important. The other thing is they've got to share the same values. They could be scrappy, they could be hardworking, but if we're not on the same page in terms of values, it's just not going to work out.
How do you go about that?
You throw a lot of people at a job and you see which ones do best. And
Okay.
the math is 20% really do most of the work, and 20% of the 20%, which is 4 out of 100, those are the stellar ones. So if I could hire 100 people, throw them on a project, 4 are going to be the ones you want. And those are the ones that you want to spend your time on.
Investing
Many times
in.
people feel like, oh, I should help the ones that aren't doing well. You need to double down on the ones who are doing extremely well. So my top
Smart.
closer, the one who's doing 75%, I'm going to spend 80% of my time with her.
Yeah.
Not the other ones that are closing 1 out of 3. Right?
Makes sense. What would you say your first big major win was that made you realize, you know what, this business is actually going to succeed?
You know, my big one was actually a nice small one where I visited a couple, retirees, husband, wife, and I measured the home and I pitched the amount. It was about $22,000. And we business owners are always a little bit, I think we have the tendency to be a little bit apologetic about the dollar value because it might not be the amount that we would easily write.
That's a good point.
And so I pitched it to him and he said, it's done, let's do it. It taught me many things. First, of course, there's demand for this, but it's one thing to have demand and no one being able to buy it. They want it, but no one's buying it. That's not a business, right?
Right.
You got to have people who want it and they will actually buy it. And at that moment, it's very clear to me that there are several people just like that couple. They want the top tier security and they're just going to write the check for it. No apologies.
It's a no-brainer decision.
As long as we're doing the right thing, especially when it's inconvenient for us, it's the equation for success. And so at that moment, I realized this is a winner.
I'm onto something.
Yep.
That's awesome. Looking to get into the home service business? Well, with $120,000 worth of jobs booked in the first 6 weeks of starting, episode 210 with Chris is one you don't want to miss. Take a second to like and subscribe, and we, of course, will see you next time.